This blog post showcases how to utilize React Server Components, RSC, and Client Components, RCC, within a Next.js framework to render static Markdown content effectively. This blog post builds on a previous Hello World example of React Server and Client Components, as showcased in a linked YouTube video. The focus of this project is to delve into the use of server components for data fetching, highlighting their advantages in that context. The text consists of a single command used in the Node Package Manager, npm, to install the dependencies of a project specified in the package.json file. This command ensures that all necessary packages for the project are downloaded and made available for use. The text appears to be a command used in a blog post related to software development, specifically for starting a development server using npm Node Package Manager. The command npm run dev is typically used to run scripts defined in a project's package.json file, often initiating a local server for development purposes. The provided code snippet is a React functional component named Home, which renders a main page containing two sections for displaying a static Markdown post, one for a server component, md2post server component, and another for a client component, md2post client component. Each section is headed by an h2 element styled with light blue color, clearly delineating the server and client versions of the Markdown post. The provided code is an asynchronous TypeScript function named md2postServerComponent, which reads a Markdown file, post1.md, from a specified directory. It uses the fs module to synchronously read the file's contents and the marked library to convert the Markdown text into HTML. Finally, it returns a React component containing a div element that safely displays the HTML content using dangerously set inner HTML. This allows for rendering of the converted Markdown as formatted HTML in a web application. This code snippet presents a React functional component named md2postClientComponent that asynchronously fetches Markdown content from an API endpoint /pi/markdown, converts it to HTML using the marked library, and manages loading and error states. The component uses hooks like useState and useEffect to handle state for the HTML content, loading status, and error messages. One initial state, HTML content, is initialized to an empty string. Loading is set to true, while error starts as null. 2. Fetching data. An asynchronous function fetchMarkdown is created, which performs a fetch request to the Markdown API. If the response is not OK, an error is thrown. On a successful fetch, the Markdown text is converted to HTML and stored in HTML content. Error handling. If any error occurs during fetch or conversion, it updates the error state with the error message. 4. Component rendering. While loading, it displays loading. If an error occurs, it shows the respective error message. If successful, it renders the HTML content securely using dangerously set inner HTML. This component effectively demonstrates fetching, converting, and displaying content while managing various states in React. This code snippet is a TypeScript function that exports an asynchronous GET request handler. It resolves the file path for a Markdown file, post1.md, located in a data posts directory, reads its contents synchronously in UTF-8 encoding, and then returns a response containing the file's contents with a content type header set to text/plain. This setup is likely used in a server environment, such as a Next.js application, to serve the contents of a Markdown file as plain text. The blog post discusses how the homepage utilizes both server and client components to render Markdown content, illustrated by an accompanying image. The text outlines the advantages of using server components in web development. Key benefits include performance. Server components are rendered at build time, improving load times for users compared to client-side rendering. Bundle size. They can decrease the bundle size by eliminating the need for certain client-side libraries like Mark.js. SEO benefits. Since server components generate ready-to-use HTML, they offer better search engine optimization. Code size. Server components generally result in a smaller code base than client components, which often require additional endpoints. The text discusses how HTML is generated on the server at build time for React Server Components. This approach ensures that the content is readily available when the page is loaded, as illustrated by the provided image of the view source. The text explains that the HTML for a web page is generated on the client side, which means it doesn't appear in the initial source code when viewed. Instead, the content is dynamically rendered when the page loads, which can negatively impact search engine optimization (SEO). An accompanying image illustrates this point by showing the view source for a React client component. The blog post highlights a YouTube video titled Mastering Server versus Client Components in Next.js. The video likely provides insights into the distinctions between server and client components within the Next.js framework, focusing on their roles and how to effectively utilize them in web development. Additionally, there is a script included for syntax highlighting, suggesting that the post may involve code snippets or examples to enhance understanding.